As you mentioned off the top, Wall Street's fear gauge, the VIX, briefly hitting its highest level since the height of the pandemic, a level my next guest was hoping for when we spoke on Friday. So now he says this is a buying opportunity. Here with where he's adding to positions, Jeff Kilburg, founder and CEO of KKM Financial. He's also a CNBC contributor. Jeff, walk me through the last 24 hours.
Well, Kelly, it's been extraordinary, and we talked about this, and as you know, I partner with financial advisors to mitigate risk. I'm not a contrarian, but when we saw back in June and July, that leadership, that top 10 stock concentration in the S&P 500. On top of that, Kelly, we saw all the variety of different wirehouses and economic strategists repositioning their end-of-year target. There were all the signs out there of complacency. That's when the VIX was at 12. We saw the VIX move dramatically higher last Friday, but today we saw a spike, an absolute unbelievable move higher up to 65. And that's when we capitalized the puts that we were long in June and July, which were painful, as you know. I kind of got ridiculed for putting in protection when the VIX was so low. But by taking profit on those puts, but also selling puts. For example, this morning on Meta, when Meta was trading on its lows around 450, we sold puts going out just to next Friday, regular expiration, collected $16 because of that explosion of volatility. Those same puts 3 hours later, Kelly, are at half. They're at $8. So when you see that type of volatility come in, off the open, you saw tons of fear. But what I'm trying to say, not being a contrarian, is that I want to take this and embrace this volatility. We are looking to reposition because there are no cracks in credit spreads. We get the fact that the consumer is weakening. We're going to see more data this week on the earnings. But the VIX, you have to use it to your advantage to mitigate risk, define risk, and also allocate towards risk when other people are fearful.
Do you pick up, for instance, any new positions in the Mag 7?
You know, I think Tesla's a great name. We've talked about Tesla. It's been very volatile. You saw a recent uptick, but that's been the laggard of the Mag 7. I think it makes sense when you see a swoosh down in any of these names. However, NVIDIA, which I've been critical of, from 125 all the way up to 140, I've covered that position. I'm looking to get long here. Yes, Kelly, you heard it right.
I was going to ask if you were waiting for like the 80 level or thought, no, you know, it's time.
If you look back in the last couple of earnings, we came out of that 950 level. Now it's $95. But when we came out of that back and fill, as an old trader, we always look for back and fill opportunities. So yes, we're going to get excited about the earnings at the end of the month. We are very mindful, though. There's been some technical damage. It's like a depth charge that got thrown in the market in the last 2 weeks. So there will be ramifications and reverberations, but you have to really tilt into that to mitigate risk and also to see the market move higher at the end of the year. There's a ton of noise out there, but you have to separate the noise. And there's just so many volatility tourists there. I have to chuckle. But the more volatility tourists we see in pseudo investment committee folks out there, the more opportunities to buy some of these great names like some of the Mag 7 individuals.
So that answers my next question. I was going to say, what aren't you doing? It sounds like you're not, for instance, pouncing on the VIX and thinking, okay, you know, time to expect this volatility to last for quite some time or to get much worse.
I think it stays elevated, but we can manage a VIX from 20 to 40. Where it gets a little tricky when you really see some fear come into the market, when you see it vault above 50 or even 65 like it did today. So I think this is very healthy. And we have to remember, Kelly, that we were waiting for a reprice, at least I was, waiting for a reprice of the Mag 7. So we are getting it. However, the velocity of this repricing, we go back to last November, you saw the S&P 500 up 35%. You saw SMH up 60%. If you look at SMH, for example, yes, it's 24% off its all-time high, but it's still up 21% year to date. So I think the thesis, the AI thesis and theme is still intact, but you have to be very considerate and understand your risk tolerance. That's why we use options to mitigate risk, and that's why I make the money I do partnering with advisors to help them mitigate through these tough times.
It's interesting you think that that larger kind of AI trend is still intact, because that's one of the big points being debated. So for now, saying not quite a sea change there yet. Jeff, thanks. Appreciate you making the time.